It's kind of a weird thing because like sometimes I'll do things too where I just do it regardless of what the feedback could be, so I don't even show anyone because I have this weird notion in my head and I'm determined to make it work. So the written script for the page I'm working on is vastly different than what is on the page. All the story details are the same, but the way I've approached it is different.
Hey, I'm Alex Morrissey. Welcome to Tradecraft. Each episode, I discuss the creative life and process with the people responsible for the books and comics we love. Today's guest, J.H. Williams III, returns 4¼ years after his first visit on episode 101. Back then, issue 1 of Jim's love letter to comics, ECHOLANDS, was just about to hit the stores. Even seeing the preliminary art he shared with me, I wasn't fully prepared for what he'd done. I speak often of my theory that what we love by the age of 12 lives with us forever, and this book is a testament to that. But this is far from the work of a tween. ECHOLANDS is a complex and nuanced piece of comic book art. Jim's a phenomenal talent, like a great white circling the industry. A sleek hunter of deadly intent, and when he strikes on the page, it's undeniable. He's earned the respect of his peers and those creators he admired. For over 30 years, when the greatest comic book writers want to bring a new work into the canon, Jim was on their short list of artists. Chaykin, Dixon, Ellis, Gaiman, Jodorowsky, Mensch, Moore, Morrison, Robinson, Siegel are just a few of those that collaborated with him over the years. Jim's strong use of chiaroscuro and realistic drapery combined with his next-level focus on visual storytelling results in comic book pages that feel like nothing else. Pencil, ink, washes, and watercolors all coalesce into an art that demands deeper examination. Our talk today is a bit of a catch-up and an examination of our own. Jim reflects on 4 years of ECHOLANDS and how it's morphed from its initial scale. We also dig into how his writing style has changed over the years and what it feels like to write comics for others. This is me with J.H. Williams III. Thanks for coming back.
Sure.
I mean, it's been four years.
Has it really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, you had the first issue of ECHOLANDS hadn't come out yet.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So it was 2021, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, it was a very different world.
Oh my God, yes.
I think I exist to fight the algorithm at all costs in my life, like whatever I can do to be. I used to have this theory, like playing poker with normal people, not professional poker players. I would randomize actions just to make sure that they couldn't kind of get a beat on what I was doing. And I think however I internalize that, I apply it to my online behavior.
Yeah.
So they'll never catch me.
I swear, if I wasn't in this business and also trying to do what I can to fight the bullshit, I probably would have ditched the social media stuff by this point.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's a lot.
It's too much in so many ways. And
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, man. I make this joke. I say, like, ask me why I write for 20 to 30 hours a week, write novels. Yeah. It's just so the chance, that infinitesimal chance that one of them like hits huge, and I can get rid of my smartphone and get a flip phone.
Oh.
That's nirvana. Like 1998 is nirvana for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's saying, like, I don't know, the nature of the beast is seems so pervasive. Like, even if, like, in a perfect world, something like ECHOLANDS got optioned and becomes a TV show and it's a giant, enormous success.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, would I feel even more compelled to remain in the
Oh,
social
wow.
media
Yeah.
circles because of kind of like because you're now attached to this thing,
Sure.
this creation of yours that people are now invested in larger
Right.
numbers.
Right. Right. Is it, I mean, like, okay, so like teasing that out, is it, is it a control thing? Like, is it a concern that the misinterpretation of whatever you've created, because there's like people have to seek out what you do
Yeah, yeah,
and they've got to sit down and contend with what you do,
yeah,
on the page. But if if they're playing El Dumbo and just clicking channels and
yeah,
just see the thing and get it beamed into their head and they're like, I like this, but then they say something and they're misconstruing stuff
yeah,
because they're not really internalizing it.
yeah,
I like a part of me would be like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like I would be out there fighting this pointless war of
yeah, yeah,
trying to elucidate the masses.
yeah, yeah. And this reminds me of a conversation I have had with the various PR people at Image, um, and I've asked Eric Stevenson about it a little bit, and he says, "Well, talk to so and so in the PR department." And it was an interesting conversation because I was like, at the time, I think I was still on Twitter at that point, and at the
Mm-hmm.
time, I was like so tempted to just say, "Screw it all," just throw social media out the window entirely. But I was thinking about, well, I have projects I'm going to have coming up that I'm going to need to promote, and so on and so on. And so it led me to ask the question, like, does having a social media presence affect sales or not? Does it do
Right.
anything for sales? No one could give me the answer. They don't have the answer. And I had thought that there would be analytics about this by now.
You would think.
So it's kind of surprising. So we're all kind of out here swimming in the dark, not knowing if it's actually reaching people in a way that gets the work into people's hands or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It's a strange thing.
Yes, that data is there. Somebody could get that data and do comparison tests,
Yeah.
but it's hard because it would be very hard because it's very hard to compare one person to another person
Uh-huh.
in the comic business,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
because the fan bases aren't the same
Right.
no matter what. Like, I mean, you've worked on Batman, but you don't have the same fan base as Greg Capullo.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then also how much of our numbers in terms of like the number of people following us is actually indicative of who's actually buying and reading.
Less than 3%.
I have a feeling it's way, way off. Because when I see like on Instagram, I'm at 3.5 thousand people on
Mhm.
Instagram. I know there's more than that buying and reading my work by a
Right.
much larger number. So it's really a strange beast.
Yeah, I mean, I think for certain creators, such as yourself, you think of a Chris Sprouse, who's really not online at all
Yeah.
for any major amounts. You guys built your names and your bones before any of this stuff existed, so
Mm-hmm.
you have a built-in fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Your name is attached to top 3 biggest name writer in history of comic books,
Mm-hmm.
so you get this sort of perennial fan base out there who like have loved your work for 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is worth a lot in the sort of the exchange out there.
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of people who have these, 90,000 followers, but they're not selling 30,000 comic books a month.
Right. It feels like some of those are, you have 90,000 followers because you're entertaining on the internet.
Yes.
Not so, granted, we're generalizing. I mean, there could be
Sure.
people out there that have those numbers that are selling those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's a guaranteed rule.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing is and I've said it before, and I'm going to bore people again and saying it again, but the tools are the same for us as it is for Image or Marvel or DC or Disney.
Yeah.
They don't have a special version of Instagram or
Right.
Twitter or whatever you name the platform. They still have to put an image up. They still have to post something, and it still just goes out. And that's it. They've got money to put ads up and push those things, but they don't, like, the tool is the same. So the companies have said, why bother? Let's let our creators do all that work.
Yes. There's some of that going on. Yeah.
Rather than having a person in the office do one post for however many books that they have to do throughout their day or their week.
Yeah.
You have 5 creators, up to 5 creators on a single title. And that means you could get 5 posts a week going out for that book on a minimum.
But reaching such a much smaller number of the people who are paying attention, where, like, say if it's DC or Image or whoever, or Marvel or whoever, when they make a post, it's reaching tens of thousands. Like,
right, but your followers are your followers.
Right.
Like, their followers aren't your followers.
Maybe, like, there could be something said for that,
and people following Marvel or DC might just be fans of the movies. We don't know. Like, you just don't, So I don't, I have no idea. It's convoluted and crazy.
Yeah. And it's very much feeling like enough is enough now.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
And I'm not even on there that much compared to so many other
people. No, you're not. And here I'm asking you to sit and, talk about, in a different version of the same thing.
But this is just better. This is real content. This is something for people to hear what our thought processes are. And,
totally.
It's not something that they just scroll by at their leisure. It's something they have to invest time in and think about. So I view this sort of thing way differently.
Yeah, I mean, and hence why I said that's why I went away from the YouTube thing and went to this, where I feel like I can just sit and have a talk, talk shop. So one thing I don't think I ever really followed up, and it may never have made it to you, but I don't know how long ago, but I sent you that John Byrne, X-Men thing.
Yes. I think I sent you a thank you.
I think you sent me like I think, but I think that was on Twitter, and Twitter's gone. So, but yeah. So, what did you think?
I think it's fun. It's about what you would expect. It's typical Byrne in a lot of ways, and
for sure,
it's so much fun. Apparently, there's way more issues that he's done than what those contain at this point. I just heard in the last month that they're going to do an omnibus at Marvel.
Well, cool.
Of that material.
Yeah, cool.
In color.
Yeah.
Which is like, so how many of us could get away with doing a bootleg comic and then have the publisher go ahead, oh yeah, we'll publish that.
I mean, absolutely. It's like the weirdest version of fan fiction in the history of comics.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah, I know. It semi supports my for years I've been saying that they should have like a Marvel Legends line where they just pay the teams that we all know and love to come and do story runs. Like, come up with whatever you want. It's not in the canon. Fire away. Make it a thing, and let's get Miller and Jansen, or Miller and Mazzucchelli and. Get Sienkiewicz to come back and do, a Moon Knight or whatever the thing is. I mean, our minds would all explode. For anybody over the age of like 45, our heads would explode.
We just gave them a genius idea. You realize that's what you've done. And then someone's gonna go and say, "Hey, I've got this great idea," after hearing you say
Yeah,
it.
that's fine. Fine. Please take it. Please take it. Because I would like to see it,
Yeah.
like I want to see that,
Oh yeah, that'd be
I
awesome.
mean, like, hey, Marvel, pony up the money and get Golden to do a Micronauts thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something. I don't know. Yeah. So it would be an interesting experiment. Maybe, who
Yeah.
knows? So how's ECHOLANDS going? Like for you, like, I mean, this has been a long run
Mm-hmm.
of you driving your own, or at least, in the front seat with somebody else
Mm-hmm.
running this whole thing. And is it the longest time you've been sitting and working on something, or is it number
It
two for
feels
you?
like it.
Well, you're probably doing more work than you've ever done.
Yeah. I definitely was on Promethea much longer
Hmm.
in terms of number of issues. This stuff is taking. It seems, I don't know. It's hard to say. Promethea very quickly ended up being only 4 issues a year, because there was just no way it could be out more than that. Echolands is probably going slower than that. Um,
You're putting a wave ton of work into every single issue.
oh, thanks. It's one of those things that kind of, I think if we try to do it in any other way that cut corners, it would really show in this
Hmm.
concept. It just wouldn't work. Um, but in terms of how it's going, I'm about to wrap chapter 4 of arc 2, and there will be 2 more chapters to finish before we start rolling out again. Um, and part of it, you know, it's a strange thing. So like where arc 1 ended, where the characters find themselves in Horror Hill, and that's all that black and white,
Hmm.
inspired by old horror movies and old 70s black and white horror comics stuff. Well, the next arc, a huge chunk of that takes place in that world, which is means basically I'm doing black and white paintings for every page. Um,
You're so
and
smart.
it's only the funny thing is it's only little over a third of the arc, but those issues were so much amount of work because as I was doing that style, it was one of those things like it constantly needed refining to
Hmm.
hit the right note. Like every time I would do a page, I'd be like, I'd have to remind myself, yes, these are tones here, but there's not going to be any color involved, except for characters
Right.
that are in color, like Hope, the main character, as
Hmm.
an example. So, in order for that balance to hit right on the page to make it feel absolutely full and fully realized, it required more and more complicated um, layers of tones and rendering to where it really is like doing paintings on all those pages. Um, so there was a period of time on that stuff, where it was a two page spread every 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's how long.
Oh my
But part
God.
of that is also, trying to live a normal life too, right? Taking
Yeah.
downtime, uh, dealing with stuff that has to be dealt with around the house, the ordinary daily life
Hmm.
stuff. So, I would look at that and go, man, that's a long time for 2 pages. I would show those pages to my wife or to my friend, one of my local guys here that's a co-author of mine that we've got some projects coming up with. Um, he would look at it and he goes, "Yeah, but did you see those 2 pages?" He's like,
Right.
he'd be like, "There's no way you're being slow because the amount of stuff involved."
There's a density that you're putting into this work, overall,
Yeah,
which I don't think you've done on a page level to this degree. I think, for covers and specific pieces you may have, or
yeah,
like, hey, Jim, can you do like a 3-page part in this sort of one book thing? And you're like, sure. And you kind of go
yeah,
full tilt on that. But Like you've had to like, because you are working in all these different styles,
Yeah.
literally on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is the task at hand isn't just a requirement of execution. You have to be cognizant of every single shape and stroke,
Yes.
because you can't make a mistake and go, oh my God, I just put a Kirby squiggle
Uh,
on a Mobius character.
right. 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 Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And some of those things are not, I would say, for maybe many readers, are not immediately evident. Those differences,
Mm-hmm.
um, of what the difference, like they might not be able to pinpoint a Kirby versus a Mobius thing, but they can see the difference.
Yeah.
And so if I make errors like that, where I'm like not conscientious of what that character's supposed to be doing, visually representationally doing, it would turn quickly into a mess, and then it all starts to feel all homogenized at that point,
Sure.
right?
Which is the enemy of what this project is versus every other comic book project you've worked on. Is like, everything's got to look like in the same world, dummy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so there's definitely that involved. And then the funny thing to me is like when I would talk to Image about how long it's taking to do like that rendered painted stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you said, doing it is all done on the board. When I moved in out, when the characters finally leave that part of the Echolands, they end up going to some place that's the exact opposite of that. So, and they end up in Fourth Rome, which is all based on Kirby.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, oh, great. Finally, I can just do just inking work.
I could just cruise through this Kirby
Right.
stuff.
No. No. I thought it would be a lot easier than it actually is. And it's a very interesting learning lesson into the complexities of what Kirby does.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be some pages, like as I was working, I would maybe throw up a page and I would look at it and go, I can see the Kirby, but it's still not exactly right. And when I would show it to people, were like, oh my God, that's so Kirby. And I'm like, great, it's doing its job. But I can still see it's still not exactly right. And so I'm constantly trying to capture what I feel when I look at Kirby in these pages.
Yeah.
But in terms of the concept, even though I feel like some of these Kirby images aren't exactly right, the fact that it evokes it enough for people to say when they see it,
mm-hmm.
they see Kirby, then it serves the concept. It's an echo of Kirby, right?
Yeah.
So the term ECHOLANDS, it's things not being exactly how I want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay because it's an echo. It's filtered through me anyway, right?
Totally.
But it's an interesting beast because every time I tackle something new like that, I'm always trying to figure out how to solve that puzzle in my brain.
Yeah.
And it's always something I'm like, I'm going to crack this. I'm going to crack it. I'm going to crack it. And each time I do a new page in whatever technique or style I'm looking for, I get a little bit closer. I'm a little bit closer to solving that puzzle. So it's always kind of a time-consuming challenge in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really interesting, I think, to have to think in those terms.
I mean, we spend so much time, I guess, as pencilers to like, this is our style. Like we fight and we hunt for our style.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
This is a really important thing. We may wear our influences proudly.
Yes.
But there's this effort to be like, okay, what is my unique signature? What's the thumbprint? And then you in this situation, it's like you're not only like needing to maintain that,
yeah,
but you're needing to also like maybe turn the knobs up on those influences.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, okay, let's grab the Kirby dial and crank it up here, or we're going to grab the Wrightson dial and we're going to ratchet that right up. And
yeah. It's a definitely a weird way to think about it, and I think part of it, I guess, it stems from a few different things. So, like when I was doing Promethea, there was a lot of influence-based imagery showing up in that. There was influence-based imagery showing up in Sandman Overture a lot. And all of that was all very purposeful and intentional, asked for by Alan or Neil or myself, to purpose, particularly on Promethea, because Promethea was about art, right? So there was a lot of wearing its influences on its sleeve in places. But one of the things I learned in that, and speaking to the notion of developing our own styles, when I was younger, I was very much like, what is my style? What is my thing, right?
You on the mountaintop, ragged clothes. What is my style?
Trying to claw my way up. But my time on Promethea, and then it got reinforced when I did Seven Soldiers of Victory and Batman the Black Glove, where I came to the conclusion that even if I came up with my own style that I'm satisfied with, and I would say there's grooves I have a tendency to fall into if I'm not thinking about style. There's certain things
left to your own devices.
Yeah, that will just inherently come up that I would say, oh, that's definitively me. But even when I look at stuff I would say is definitively me, and not trying to capture a Kirby or Wrightson thing like you mentioned, I came to the understanding even that is highly derivative. And everything that we do, somebody's already been there. Someone's already treaded on that. Even if you're not fully aware of it, it lives in the recesses of your mind in some form. Even if you were never fully exposed to what that is derivative of, you've seen something else that was.
Totally. I mean, that's, I'll say in current comic books, the two most influential artists in current comic books on the shelves are Mike Mignola and Bruce Timm.
Interesting.
But the people who are art is influenced by Bruce Timm aren't influenced by Bruce Timm.
Correct.
They're influenced by the people who worked with Bruce, who went on. So, you have Darwin, who might be the biggest of the lot. Yeah. And everybody subsequently has been kind of going in that route. The people who grew up on Teen Titans Go, well, that's Glenn. Yeah. So you have this kind of run of people who they're getting that. We didn't grow up with a whole bunch of people having long careers drawing like Kirby. Right. It was Kirby and people kind of aping a little bit of Kirby because they were being forced to, but otherwise that was it. Nobody was doing Kirby. So he never really kind of went out there. Like he did, like there was no Kirby looking comics in the 80s and the 90s. Like, it stopped at Jack. Yeah.
The closest would be Simonson. I'd say his textures are different, right?
Absolutely.
His energy is similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he I think Walter and Jack both do a thing that very few comic artists can do, which is leverage scale on a page.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right. Yeah.
Like you can get this sense of vastness of space in, especially in Walter's work where you're like, how is he getting that much space in this thing? And it works. You're like, it's not real. Yeah. But he is the king of that. But I think like those influences are so hard to shake. And I remember, I felt like I never had a style. That was always my sort of how I felt. But like every single one of my friends would be like, oh yeah, you totally have a style. They could see it. Yeah. I couldn't see it. Right. I would get friends coming up and saying, hey, this artist is drawing like you. And I'm like, what? Like, how is that possible? I don't know how I draw. But the thing is they were seeing things that I wasn't seeing. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Yeah, it's such a weird thing. And so when I kind of stumbled onto the notion, like anything I come up with is going to be derivative of something that came before, even if I'm not immediately aware of it. I absorbed a lot of comics as a kid. I mean, a lot. So there's things that live in the recesses of my mind that, if I, as an example, I've always loved Jim Starlin. Read
Mm-hmm.
Jim Starlin ever since I was a kid. Did I ever consider Jim Starlin much of an influence on what I do? No. But going back and re-educating myself on the old Starlin stuff from my
Mm-hmm.
childhood, I would be going through and I would start to come across pages. I'm like, oh, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Right.
Right. And then I could see how those things were coming out in some of my work, even if it's not immediately evident. Um, and that's what I mean by that sense of being derivative. And some people might take that the wrong way, like I'm being
Right. Not as a
critical,
pejorative. Like,
right?
yeah.
And I'm
Right.
not. I'm just being.
Yep.
I feel like it's an honest statement.
Yeah.
Uh, and by realizing that there's all these things that came before, I feel like it's a little bit freeing. It's a little bit of a freedom because then you can go, all right, well, then what can I learn from that
Mm-hmm.
by exploring that and opening myself up to those variations of what can be done on a page visually? And ECHOLANDS is a really great example of what I'm saying by opening myself up to that whole idea that these things are an echo of things I'm familiar with, things I love,
Mm-hmm.
while being true and pure at the same time. That's the thing I love about what's happening in ECHOLANDS. It's very singularly itself, but it's also a massive love letter to the things I love without being um, just a copycat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're not doing a fan fiction piece. Like
Yeah,
this is a it's like you're just getting to play, like you're getting to pick one toy from all your favorite friends' toy boxes
yeah,
and
yeah,
getting to go play with them. You know,
yeah. Exactly,
if
exactly.
that's, if that's a loose, crappy metaphor.
No, it's a great
Um,
metaphor.
my question is like, how do you feel 4 years in? Do you feel like you were anxious? You were excited because you were really doing a bunch of things that were different at the
Yeah,
time, to this book. I guess what you could say is whatever sort of like landing in the future is
yeah,
now much more visible than it was back when you were just saying, I hope this works.
right. Yes.
Are you emotionally settled? Like you're going like, okay, I'm not anxious about the thing. You can channel your energy toward something different in this project.
I guess where I'm at now mentally is I'm anxious about the work rather than
Okay.
the success of the work. Um, yes, the success of the work in terms of its visibility uh, is still something I think about. And I was really concerned when the books are rolling out, the sales were not on fire. It did well, but not on
Mm-hmm.
fire. Um, and I had to remind myself that everything I've done in my whole career has been a slow burn. But the
Mm.
result is still on the shelf. People
Yeah.
still carry it in their stores. They still people it has a long shelf life
Mm-hmm.
rather than this big bang uh, um, launch or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had to come to terms with that. Um, but the thing that you know, I ended up having conversations with Eric about it because I had a lot of trepidation on the fact that the sales were just marginal. Um, and then, said to him what I just said to you about like, well, I shouldn't be surprised because everything I've done has been like that. But then those works, people continue to talk about them.
Yeah.
And I said, and it's not like I can do it any faster. because
Mm-hmm.
I had concerns that there's going to be a huge gap between the two arcs, but it's unavoidable. There's nothing I could do about that.
Right.
Um, and so I just had to kind of like hope it would continue to matter to some people. And
Right.
over time, as the collection has been on the shelves, I still get pinged from people about it. Um, Whenever they see that I'm still working and I've put up a new image or whatever, that people are still excited and they're like, cannot wait for more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Glad to know that there's going to be more and people are, feel excited about it. So I kind of feel like after to hear that kind of stuff when the book has been out for a few years is it's gratifying in a lot of
Sure.
ways to feel like, okay, then maybe this thing will have long-term shelf legs. It will be an
Mm-hmm.
evergreen type of thing. And and then when you have stuff like last week or the week before, um, uh, on Blue Sky, I got pinged or tagged into a conversation from Brian Bendis,
Mm-hmm.
and he's uh, touting how much he likes the book. And this is after a decent period of time after the book has been out for a
Yeah.
while, and it's getting that kind of result that I hope will make it to where I can see this thing fully through.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, and so I have less trepidation now over its visibility because I feel confident that we'll at least maintain, if not do even better, when the second volume is available, um, and that those legs will keep standing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, yeah,
It does, and I think that everyone work with me on this one. It's a dense piece of work, and when I say that, I don't say it in the terms of a Watchman or a book which has a lot of words to kind of sort of
yeah,
contend with.
yeah, yeah.
You're not there's not a verbose use of language
Right.
in the book. It is a very economical way of sort of communication on the literal end, but you're doing so much heavy lifting with the imagery that it's the kind of book that it's this is I don't know if this works, but it's like a Jack Davis thing in Mad. Like you could always go back in there and just keep finding stuff
Yeah,
in Jack Davis pieces. And like
yeah,
this feels like that. This feels like all the books that we grew up on where we would just pull them out and keep going back in there and go, what like
yeah,
how what is all this stuff in here? How is this all in here?
yeah, yeah. And the trying to find the right balance of text versus imagery for this is it's a it's a challenge in the fact that there's certain things that dictate to us, um, that make it a requirement to be streamlined in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the text.
Right.
One is the format being squat shaped versus portrait shaped. You'd be amazed at how much differently that affects the way dialogue and text
It's
fit.
an entirely different way of because
Yeah,
the verticality of a regular comic book affords you this dead space,
yeah, yeah.
and you don't have that.
Right. So as we write the issues, there's often uh, we have to be very judicious and very conscientious about how much text lines are. Always looking for how do we say the same thing with 5 less words and still have plenty of personality. And I feel like that's actually a great challenge for any
Yeah.
writer
Yep.
to find the conciseness, without losing the personality or the contextual aspects and how that dialogue is relating to the characters and how it's relating to the world that they exist in. Um, so, in that regard, I kind of feel like I almost feel like if we tried to be more verbose just because we want to sound more clever, or I think it would kill it. It would be so dead, and you would lose so much of the environment. The environment is very much a character as much as the people in the story, you know. So it's one of those books where density from reading comes from slowing down and taking in exactly what you're seeing, and asking questions about what you're seeing. What are these things? And you have to think about it. If you're reading it just for I feel terrible for any comics readers that do this. If they're just reading the text and flying through it, you know, I'm like, my co-author that I work with here, it's like he was talking to somebody and he was relaying the conversation to me, sharing his thoughts about the conversation without saying it to the person he was talking to. And he said, yeah, they told me they read the comic in 5 minutes. And he's like, no. And he says to me, no, they didn't.
Right.
They didn't read it.
Yeah.
Which
they just flip through the pages.
Yeah. So, it's very much, everything I do visually is designed to immerse yourself in the world and force you to slow down and take it in, you know. And I've done weird stuff like that on other things, like in Desolation Jones as an example. There was parts in there where I'm like, okay, how do I make something? In comics, they're still images, right? Film is moving images. So in a film, and you see people moving in slow motion for a dramatic effect, particularly, say, an action sequence or whatever, the result is messing with time, right? So when I did parts of Desolation Jones, there was parts where like, okay, how do I make a scene and have a quick punch to it, but then do things to the exact same panel that force you to slow down at the same time?
Yeah.
So like there's places where some of the backgrounds might drop out in Desolation Jones, so you get that graphic snap. But then I would purposefully use a textured crosshatch on all the shading on the character, so you're forced to like, what's happening on that character, and it forces you to change time of what you're reading. So that was sort of an experiment in messing with time when reading a comic book. And so some of the things I do in ECHOLANDS is also kind of with that same idea, just a different way to do it through all the world building backgrounds. And that's the other thing that makes ECHOLANDS so tough is we jump locations a lot. So if you're doing world building and it's a vast world and each location has to have its own flavor, you can't drop backgrounds.
Right.
Every shot has to reinforce that setting. And that, is not necessarily a common thing in some comics. You know, some comics just want to keep that click going, you know?
Yep.
So it's very much, I'm always looking for ways to manipulate the reader's time. Well,
that's a very Will Eisner approach, like you were talking about the hatching and the, trying to come up with different techniques on that page to change time. Like he was very ahead of his time in that regard of like, how do I manipulate my readers to get the effect that I want?
Yeah.
With just only like brush and ink. That's like all he had. He had no special effects.
Yeah. And the interesting thing for me from a thought process point of view is these are things I'm experimenting with. I don't know if they actually work. I think they might work, but I don't know. I don't get the opportunity to talk a lot of readers to see if they're perceiving it in the same way I'm intending. Yeah.
You mean you're not waiting outside of the comic shop with a survey?
Right. Analyze this for me. So
Here. Hey, you go to the comic shops. Can you just slip one of these into every single one of the issues, and that way they can send me the survey? It'd be great. Yeah. Fantastic. So this book, you've been co-writing this book, which is really great. So I'm a pro writer, but
Yeah.
boy, do I champion every artist
Yeah.
to write their own stuff, because
Yeah.
I think it's cross training. It makes you better at everything.
I think so.
That being said, the collaborative nature of comic books is one of its great strengths. You've worked with some of the greatest comic book writers of the modern age. Like, you've been so
Lucky.
okay, lucky, you put yourself in that position too. You just didn't, nobody grabbed you off the street. But like, there must have been such a learning curve, even if it's through osmosis, by
Yes.
working off of their scripts, phone calls, or whatever
Yes.
communication devices that happened. How do you think working? We can cite Neil and Alan being sort of like monarchs in that realm. What did you pick up? What were these principles that you may have gleaned?
I'd say, okay, like working on Alan's scripts, everyone has heard the stories about how daunting they are. It's very true. But I think what I learned from working on Alan's scripts was when I started writing my own stuff, and I was writing before. So like even like when I did Chase and stuff, I was working on those plots. I always, even though I was an artist, I always saw myself as a storyteller and wanted
Yep.
to tell stories beyond just the visual sense. Um, so I was very attuned to what the scripts were doing, like what was I getting from them as the artist, um, and how do I convey it. So I paid a lot of attention to the mechanics of them. And so like with Alan's stuff, even though they're daunting, what they taught me was clarity of information. If I want to see it on the page and I'm writing for another artist, I need to write that,
Mm-hmm.
and see what I get back from them. Some of my scripts, like some of the stuff I'm writing for other people, are just as dense as writing for myself. I try to put everything I can think of into those scripts for things that I want to see. And I think that that's probably the number one thing I learned from Alan was trying to get as much information in there as possible. But I kind of try to do it in a way where I'm not hopefully overwhelming. So I try to be conscientious in that regard. I ended up having an interesting conversation with some higher up people at DC when I was doing writing work on Batwoman and talking about the how much detail the scripts were going into, and I was curious what they thought, and the person I was talking to, they're like, yeah, no, this is 100% well written, fully thought out script. It's a professional script. It's not lacking in anything, and that's what you hope you're accomplishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. It's sort of a weird thing because I don't want the artists to feel boxed in either, right? I want them to be
Sure.
able to bring themselves to the table, but also, I guess it's a little bit of the nature of the beast with, okay, so like Alan is also a visual artist. So his writing stems from that. So when he would write
Yeah.
comic scripts, I've never seen them, but people have said that he will thumbnail it and
Mm.
then write from that. And so I think because I'm a visual artist too, I can't help but write my scripts with those details in mind.
Yeah.
I always worry about making someone feel boxed in. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I can't help but think in those terms and try to convey that as much as possible. That's probably one of the biggest. After working with someone like Alan for 6 years, it's like there's no way it's not going to have an impact on you when you
Sure.
go to write stuff. You know, I think it'd be a disaster if I tried to write scripts that were very sparse
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to convey a complex idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like one of the things we're working on now, I can't name it yet, but one of the things we're working on right now is a really complex concept. And so, I mean, it deals with time loops and interdimensional realities and stuff like that, and trying to convey the mechanics of what's happening while also presenting reality shifts that are strange, like what you might see in a David Lynch thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to convey those attitudes in a script, I have found really challenging. I don't, so far so good, but I think if I hadn't worked with someone like Alan with his sense of thinking everything through, that he knows it works on the page, whether what he gets back is the same or not. He knows it works. And that's
Yeah.
sort of what I'm always after, making sure I know with what's written that I know that it functions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the biggest thing I learned from him.
I wonder because everyone sort of thinks and needs different things.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're saying how Alan will thumbnail things out, and you obviously you're capable of thumbnailing things out yourself, and I wonder, like some artists may not need everything. Some
Right.
artists may need everything. Like I work with an artist who, if I said, hey, how about I give you thumbnails for the pages along with the script, I think they would go, hell yeah, please. Because for them, it solves so much of the problem for
Yeah.
them
Right.
that they can then focus on the thing that maybe that's what they really like, which is just the execution. Let me just draw this. Let me
Right.
make
Right.
this
Right.
thing look fun.
Right. There's instances where I'm asking for a strange idea layout wise. It's like trying to play with
Mm-hmm.
something where I've thought about, like, I could just sketch this out and show them.
I've done it.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't want to overstep my position in the creative collaboration part, right? If they ask me for that, then yeah, fine, I'll do it. And there's times where
Sure.
where I offer, I'm like, hey, if you like, I can show you what I mean.
Yep.
And we ended up doing that on the special effect thing of this strange object, where I'm like, we were going around about it a little bit, and I was feeling terrible about that because it just wasn't capturing a certain strangeness that I could see in
Mm-hmm.
my head. And I'm like, I said, you know what? Let me just rough it out
Yeah.
on there, and some that maybe that'll give you some more direction. And that turned out to be a good idea. I always worry about, I don't want to offend anybody. You know,
But maybe it's a bit of a cipher, in the terms that you're giving them that sketch in conjunction with the existing script gives them that cipher to be able to break down the next one.
yeah, yeah,
And they go, okay, that's what he means when he writes this stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
I have a better understanding of interpolating the idea on the
yeah,
word from the words to the image. I
yeah, yeah.
mean, that's me being turning this into roses. So, um, and I think there's an extra special thing about, spending years and years of your life and translating somebody's written word into a visual word,
Uh-huh.
and then stepping out and putting the words down for somebody else to translate that into the
Yeah,
visual world and seeing that, because it's such a different experience,
it is. Yeah,
going that direction, and to be able to see, even if it's not perfect, like it's never going to be perfect, but even if it's not the thing that's 100% in your head, you can go, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I never
yeah,
would have done that.
yeah, exactly. So some of the people I'm working with right now, it's very much kind of like that, where uh, as I'm writing it, I see how I would interpret it. I can't help but
Mm-hmm.
see it in those terms because I think visually.
Yeah.
And then when I get back what that person sees in it, that's always a very interesting experience, and really cool, because you're like, oh, interesting. You know, different aspects come out that you might not have been considering, or just even the way they draw.
Yep.
Their style alone affects how it then hits me on the thing that we've written, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think it's cool. And that's one of the things I like about the collaborative process.
Yeah.
Is seeing what happens.
I'm thrilled with the gems out there who are the ones who are writing and doing all the artwork of these, these sort of rare comics that you get out there, and you're like, oh my gosh, well done. You did the whole thing, and I'm so amazed that you did that. But you're never going to get that sort of that slot machine salute, answer of having all these different people involved with it, and you get this. No one's ever going to figure out how this is going to look ahead of time. If there's an editor who has a job to say, hey, hire 5 people to do this comic book, they don't know what it's going to look like,
right?
Because they're going for the writer first,
right?
And then they're getting an artist, and then they're trying to fill out the rest of the roster. And it's this sort of like, okay, here we go. We're gonna get some coins. Like, let's see.
Here's all the parts to a car.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's all the right parts, so the car will run. So you can drive the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
like
cool.
Working with the team on ECHOLANDS. My co-author Hayden Blackman. And Dave, everyone, okay, so like, even though ECHOLANDS is this baby of mine, I know I could do it all on my own, but it wouldn't be the same thing as working with these people. And it certainly wouldn't come out as if ever if I was trying to do it all. So everyone's input has an impact on the final result, even though this is the thing that I've always wanted to do, right? It's that team aspect to it that makes a difference. And a lot of times, they might see something differently than I see it. And sometimes it takes talking it through or asking questions on everyone asking each other questions. Hayden's writing sensibility can differ from mine. But when we mesh those two together, we get a certain result that has something we both find appealing. And same with my other writing partner, Scott Johnson is his name. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, it's strange because everyone wants to be able to see themselves in the work, but at the same time, being collaborative, it's now a new thing. It's not, you can't go and like, oh, that bit there, I can see that's my bit, right? That totally disappears now because it's now everyone's vision is getting into the mix, right? And that's one of the things that's wild about comics. That it's fascinating to see. I don't know what other jobs in a creative field have that same close knit aspect to it. Maybe film, but film is so much more people.
There's so many people. Many people. The old thing that kept popping in my head when you were talking about your collaborators, I was just thinking like, well, it's John and Paul. It's Simon and Garfunkel. Like you get these two heads that come together, and like in the Beatles, you have, like, I'm thinking like, I remember distinctly maybe like 7th or 8th grade, I was able to tell who was who by singing. I was like, oh, that's George singing. That's John singing. Like Ringo was the first one you knew who was singing because he didn't sound like the other guys. But there was this point you're like, oh, that. And then that horrible effort of dissection starts happening in your
Yeah.
life with that band. You're like, well, who played what and where and when and why? Like,
Who wrote
because,
what? Yeah. Yeah.
right, because it became so, because they're so important,
Yeah.
in the history of music, it becomes important to know, well, did Paul leave early in that session? Did he play bass on that song? Like, I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
all
Right.
these kinds of dumb things that come
Right.
into value. And maybe those questions get asked in comics in some sense. I mean, you would be amazed at how many comic books that artists wrote, even though they are not credited with the writing credits. Like,
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot of writers who chuck out a script and it's like, not so good, but you get a really good artist who's like, all right, I'm just
Yeah.
going to rewrite this issue.
Yeah.
And the editors aren't going to put up a fight. They got a schedule,
Right.
and they don't want to go back to the writers who probably don't want to be told, redo this. So
Right.
it happens. And some of those comics might be some of our all-time favorite comics. That's just
Right.
how it works.
Right. That's like the promotion of comics has become so writer first,
Mm-hmm.
when I feel like that's not genuine and not a fair assessment of what comics are. I kind of feel like it's the writing and the art are co-authorship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can put all kinds of, yes, I've said my scripts can be detailed. I can be as detailed as I fucking want to be, but what people are going to respond to is what they see when they open it up.
The drawing. Yeah. Yeah.
Then the writing.
Yep.
Then the writing comes.
I mean, I read every comic as a kid by looking at the pictures first and then going back and then reading the balloons along with the pictures to like, I was understanding the whole book through pantomime. And then I was sort of getting more of a deeper understanding. I'm going to throw out my big bone to pick with someone I don't have a bone to pick with at all. But when I did when I penciled my first script with Keith Giffen, who drew out the comic book for you. Here's the rough, and do what you want with it. There was a quiet moment at the end of the issue, and the female character, they were sitting in a cab of a pickup truck, and the guy's driving, she's in the passenger seat, and she had her hair was in a ponytail, the whole thing. I had her pull her scrunchie out, redo her ponytail, and then put the scrunchie back in while they're doing dialogue and moving the camera around. Cause I figure make some interest.
Yeah.
Letters column, next issue. The guy writes in saying, Keith, that was the nicest touch to put the in this. And I'm just like, I can't,
Yeah.
There you go.
We had a joke in the house when Promethea was rolling out about, to be fair, Alan deserves the reputation he has, but for a period of time, the joke was I could draw it in blood and people would say how great Alan's story is, and there's some truth to that. People, how many readers don't see the authorship the same way you and I are describing it, which is really, really unfortunate because, 90% of what makes a comic function is what the art is doing.
Sure. It's not a comic anymore.
Right.
It's a script or a book.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what the artist does is, has such a huge impact on how people respond to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes back slightly to earlier in our conversation about dabbling with styles, because dabbling with styles, I know psychologically is impacting the person reading it. And that's another reason why I toy with it. But, it's very, very much a collaborative process. And your Beatles analogy is an interesting one, because each of those guys are great unto themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them are brilliant musicians, brilliant songwriters. Fans might like one more than another, but that doesn't discount they're all great, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they come together, they create now a fifth thing,
Yep.
uh, uh, that is also singular, right? And I kind of feel like comics do the same thing. So like if we swapped out one thing on ECHOLANDS for a different person, it would change the entire end result, right? So
Yeah.
while each of us are really good at what we do individually and could do a thing on our own if we wanted to, um, it's the sum of us coming together as a team that make it now its own entity, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that's really cool about comics, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even the Beatles, rock bands. I mean, yeah, it just I don't know.
We fall in love with this combination. You
Yeah,
know, like okay, does Sammy Hagar have a better range than David Lee Roth? Sure. Is he, did he maintain his health and his ability to sing and play guitar longer? Yes. But
yeah,
David Lee Roth and Van Halen is cooler than
yeah.
Sammy Hagar and Van
Way
Halen.
different
And
personality coming across.
and I would way prefer to have dinner with Sammy Hagar
Mm.
than David because he would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
So it's but it's this thing. It's this total thing of this combination. That's why you can't like just pick the four best musicians and say you're the best band ever. Like
Right.
it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
And I think that's the same way with comics. You just don't know until the thing happens.
Yeah.
And there are many comic books that had some of the parts or most of the parts.
Yeah.
But it was just John Byrne on the Avengers was fantastic.
Yeah.
But on the X-Men, it was better.
Uh-huh.
It was just I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So before if we do stray from ECHOLANDS, I want to ask you, since you have to draw a lot of natural stuff in there and foliage and all this kind of stuff, how invaluable or how valuable, I don't know, someone will get back to me on that one, are Michael Golden's NAM issues when it comes to foliage reference?
Oh, interesting.
Did that guy figure out the cheat code for foliage?
You know who else I feel like has a great cheat code for it is Gil Kane.
Oh yeah.
So interestingly enough, as much as you already know, Michael Golden is my biggest influence. I've purposefully done things to shy away from that in ECHOLANDS. There might be things like maybe compositionally here and there, what I do inside of a panel. Some of that might come through because I was raised on that.
Yeah.
But things like foliage, as an example, the issue I'm about to finish drawing has this jungle sequence that, and this is still in Fourth Rome, but it's a jungle that's adjacent to Fourth Rome. So Fourth Rome is the classic Kirby stuff. The jungle, I'm like, well, I don't want to do the jungle like it's Jack Kirby jungle. I want to do something else that's classic. And so I turned to Gil Kane and started looking at some of his foliage and rock details that you saw in Sword of the Atom, as an example.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
And so I used that as my inspiration rather than something like Michael Golden.
Mm-hmm.
But again, filtered through my weirdness.
Well, I know, but your line work at this point in life, like there's a way that you put the line on the page, that inked line, that I do the same inked line on the page, which is like, well, that's Michael filtering through us from being 11-year-olds.
Yeah, especially fine line details.
Yeah.
So trying to capture some of the looser shapes that Gil Kane might have with his textures one of the things that I found a real big challenge, and kept trying to refine each time I tackled a scene that required it in this issue, uh, was because one of my favorite periods of Gil Kane is his later period stuff. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
say sort of Adam falls into that category. And he uses a chunky line. It's fat.
It's so fat. It's like he grabbed all of Alex Toth's poster pens.
Yeah, yeah. And so trying to capture that effect
Mm-hmm.
has been interesting, particularly when there's areas where I had to ignore it because of maybe the line weights of the figures, because each of them are in their own styles. That
Mm-hmm.
he would have a tendency to have the line weight for the background in the distance would be similar to the line weight in the foreground, because
Mm.
it have that, everything had that fatness to it. So there's places in here where I had to cheat a little bit, like, yeah, no, I'm using a thinner line than Kane would,
Right.
but I'm drawing it with the same attitudes, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, that's an interesting about foliage is a pain in the ass
It is. It's like
to make it convincing and interesting.
horses and foliage. Get them all out of here.
Yeah,
No horses, no foliage. Yeah, I think I mean, am I kind of misremembering? But kind of sort of the Atom was his last big hurrah, like thing, like a run in a
yeah.
chunk. That was him. I can't really remember much more of like a
Yeah.
big thing.
Did he? Yeah, I mean, maybe as far as big two stuff, but do you know? Remember the oh, I can't remember the name of it now, but there was there's a couple collections of it that I have that's all black and white, and it's like a newspaper strip type thing. I want to say
Oh,
is it something Hawk, or it's got the word Hawk in it in the
okay.
title. I don't know if that followed that. That might have followed that. It's
Okay. Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
He was, I think, if not, I mean, one of the best figure artists. That guy could draw a
Yeah,
figure at any angle,
yeah,
didn't matter. And it always had this dynamic quality that just, and it was never busy. It was never complicated. It was so
yeah. That's
legible.
right. And I would study this stuff, and it's got plenty of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he kind of has a little bit of that thing where he can pack in information, and it doesn't, like you said, it's not busy, but it's all there.
Yeah,
Um, and then that's especially impressive when someone's using such a thick line as he does,
sure.
and for it to not feel overwhelming. I, I've loved all the eras of Gil Kane, but my preferred
Mm-hmm.
era is his later period stuff, because I feel like I feel like that's when he really was like not worried about what others expected, and he just did what he wanted to do
Right.
visually.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
and
I think, I just think we also, that period is when, at least you and I at our age, we're getting into like getting deeper and deeper into comics on a sense of like reckoning with the idea that like this might be something I really want to do.
yeah,
And so when we started kind of really engaging with artists, we're going, oh, like we're looking at it differently than we were when we were 8.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I find it interesting to me how, like, at a young age, that I didn't fall into the trap of being hooked onto one thing
Mm-hmm.
and expecting everything else to to feed that one visual idea,
Yeah.
and really gravitating to a wide range of very distinctly different artists from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was about my personality that made me do that, because there's it's very easy for a lot of people to kind of find their niche thing that they're a fan of, and they just stick in that groove.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
and for me, I was like, oh, what? I kept kind of like, oh, what other thing haven't I discovered that's on the horizon? what new thing. And then I just sort of like became enamored with all of it, you know. Yeah, this speaks a lot to why I do what I do now, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, I mean, it is definitely that. I used to buy collections when I was a kid. So I would go, like, you'd go into the black and white classified magazines of your area, and it'd be like comics for sale, and it would say like 200 comic books or 500, and you'd go over and you'd offer them X amount of money, and they would go, okay, fine, you buy the whole thing,
Yeah.
and you would get to discover Frank Robbins and all
Oh
these
yeah.
artists who weren't working after 1977 with any sort of regularity, but
Yeah.
boy, you could dig into all this stuff and really dive into Kirby, because everybody's collection had a lot of Kirby in it
Yeah.
at that time. So yeah, I mean, it's a cool period. I mean, it was very cool, and comics were cheap back then, so you could really get
Yes.
your hands on a lot of them for
Yeah.
very little money, and discover just all sorts of gems. Like you said earlier about the things that's sitting in our head, and what popped in my head about that is the Marvel's Frankenstein comic book,
Oh yeah.
and the cover that Mike Ploog did,
Uh-huh.
that's Frankenstein doing a backhand punch, like that's arcing into the frame of the like, that just sat in my head for years,
Yeah. Yeah.
like forever. And every time I find it in my collection, I'm like, this is one of the coolest covers ever. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't care about Frankenstein, but I sure love that cover.
Yeah. 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 It's
Yeah.
so going back in time, here's a question for you: that
Okay.
what artist from when you were growing up, becoming the fan of comics as a art form that it is, what artist didn't appeal to you back then that you now go, what the hell was I thinking? This is genius.
Okay, so it definitely ties into buying those collections, because when you're a kid, you're stuck with you'll read any comic book that comes across your lap as a young comic book fan. I'll be honest, man, like I didn't go like, Kirby's my guy.
Uh-huh.
I didn't go, Frank Robbins was my guy,
Uh-huh.
because I guess maybe there was a ubiquity to the Kirby comic books that were there, and they weren't current. They were all old. So
Uh-huh.
I just kind of said, those are old comic books.
Uh-huh.
But the weird thing is I read them and reread them and reread
Uh,
them ad
yeah.
nauseum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got into art school that I realized, like, oh, like, that's it. Like, Kirby was like the one that sort of changed
Yeah.
from the classic comics to the modern comics. He's the bridge.
Yeah.
He's the one that everyone had to reckon with at one degree or another, whether it was a ultra naturalist approach, a muscular ultra naturalist approach like Neil Adams, or Barry Smith, or into John Byrne, or was it something that was more stylized, heading into the era of, early Golden work, where he was like, even though Michael will say like, well, they hired me because I could draw like Kirby. I'm like, dude, like,
your manga influences are all over the place.
Yeah. So, but it's just this kind of, yeah. So I think for me, it was like, I think it was Kirby and Robbins. Like, if I had to pick two, I think those are the ones that really, like, I didn't come up with it until later. Who was it for you?
I'd say a little bit of Kirby. Robbins, I agree with you. Same thing. But as far as some others, Sal Buscema.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Definitely one. Herb Trimp is another. Jim Aparo.
Yep.
And now I look at that stuff. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Incredible.
They had, except for Aparo, the other guys, they had the unfortunate duty of being the people following the rock star. So no matter what, they were a letdown for it. Like, I mean, it's the it's Pat Broderick.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I'm like, great comic book artist,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
he followed Eddie Van Halen solo, and it's like,
Yeah.
and now Pat Broderick, and he goes up there and plays just a kick-ass thing, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
and that's just how it goes. But then you look back in time, you're like, oh man, they really were just kicking
Incredible.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting to me in terms of artists that had to follow Kirby, in terms of what editorial thought the expectations should be, what they thought the readers' expectations would be, is fascinating to me, because as much as Kirby was setting the template, when you follow his trajectory, he never remained the same.
Mm-mm.
He constantly was evolving in such a way that he became, I don't know, a modernist,
Totally.
modern art spectacle.
Yep.
Beyond, what you would think, right? And so, yes, you can always recognize him even as he evolved. He kept trying to push things in ways that were like, how much more could he become representational? How much more could he become graphically doing things on the page that you would like, why is this black shadow here? Like, that's one of the things in trying to capture some of his effect. I look at, I go back and look and like, I'll be like, he's got this big old shadow going across the wall behind these characters when there should be no shadow.
Right. There's no lighting source for that. Right.
Yeah. But he's doing it for that graphic power, right? Understanding the black and white in an abstract way, not a realistic way, even though he's putting all these details that are grounding through his vision.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity. There's a guy who wrote a book about him called Hand of Fire. And I got to see,
great name.
Yeah, I got to see a talk with him, and he knew Kirby and stuff. And so I had talked to him a lot about his art and stuff. And I ended up asking a question because he was taking questions and answers. I'm like, do you know if Kirby was a cubist or not? Because all of his understructures, as he evolved, all the understructures became cubic shapes, geometric shapes, rather than hard and true anatomy. And then that same sensibility even went into his backgrounds, and that's how you got all the crazy ass Kirby machinery where you're like, what?
Yeah.
And so I was asking, was he a cubist? And then also studying, was he also studying ancient tribal art, cultural art like the Mayans and so on and so on. He didn't have an answer for me, but he thought it was an interesting thing to consider because of what was going on in his pages.
What's hitting my head in this is that, like, you think of Fantastic Four, and there's all this dynamism and articulation that he's putting into the work at that period. Yeah. But then you scroll the time index forward a decade, not even a decade, and you get to his 2001 Space Odyssey and his Black Panther run.
Yeah.
And what I feel is like his depth of modernism that he's employing into those works. And I really think you're onto something with this sort of this tribal artwork.
Yeah.
Influence. They're just everywhere in those two books.
Yeah. Same with Eternals or.
Oh yeah, sure, right. Duh. Yeah.
Or,
I mean, that's all the same time. Those three things, like that's like he probably did them all at the same time, knowing how fast he was. But
or his famous space head paintings and some of the tapestry pieces that he's done that when you first look at it, it looks like this endless machinery, but then there's like figures and faces coming out of it.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, that's one thing I wonder if, like on a subtextual level, one of the reasons why Kirby, um, when people look at Kirby's work, even when he's doing superheroes like the Fantastic Four, when he would do the far out machinery and these alien cultures and stuff, if it's true that he had this interest in tribal art and
Mm-hmm.
that was coming through in his work, anyone looking at historical tribal art immediately has a sense of deep in our soul
Yeah.
of that's mythical, that's
Totally.
legend, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
scope, right? And so is that
Oh my
why
God.
when we look at Kirby's work,
Uh huh.
it hits us on that subliminal level that we don't realize that's how we're responding to it, but we're responding to it because it's like, and that's why his stuff is so mythic.
That's
Yeah,
why when you're 8 years old, you just keep looking at it over and over again because you
yeah,
can't reckon with it on a intellectual level. You can't
right.
look at it when you're a child and go, "Oh, okay, this is what he's doing." Like all that, like, and I think maybe we're a little loose in the term, or maybe off by saying tribal. And that reference of artwork. Maybe this is pre-written language
Uh-huh,
artwork.
uh-huh.
So like so like it's not tribal in that sense because
Right,
I mean, the Egyptians, like all these
right,
Mayans, and like you have all this stuff that is sort of pre-written language. And I know that you had written language. I don't
right.
want anybody yelling about that, but the point is we don't have any of that written language.
There's a lot of visuals involved.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. So the pictographic aspect of that
yeah,
is undeniable.
and yeah, and how much of that stuff, like when you go look at Mayan carvings and stuff like that, or Aztec carvings,
Hmm.
how much of it is geometric in
Sure.
nature, right? So that's why what makes me think he was looking at a lot of that stuff and really I loved it. I had a love for it, I
Yeah.
think.
Go. I mean, you go into a Catholic cathedral,
Yeah,
you're kicked in the face with this imagery in these shapes
yeah,
because, like, if you go to go see the Sagrada de Familia,
yeah,
in Barcelona,
yeah,
that's Kirby's building.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
so it's like that kind of stuff. I think you're really onto it. I think that he was able to, like you said about Kane, kind of like sloughing off like editorial direction. I think Jack was on this kind of groove where he was like, I'm going to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, because
yeah,
he was in that luxurious spot where he was so needed,
yeah,
and he produced so quickly that like an editor came and said, well, I don't know, it's kind of weird stuff. Like none of them are going to say that. They're like, he's going to get the book done.
yeah. That's right.
You know,
That's right. Let him go.
it's a business. The bottom line, it's a business. Like you
Yeah,
got
yeah,
to think, and you got to be realistic to that.
yeah. I'd say of modern artists that have a really great understanding of what he was doing
Mm-hmm.
is back to Simonson.
Yeah, sure.
He really, that use of shape and geometry,
Mm-hmm.
geometrical shapes underneath the structures. He really has a really good grasp of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
hyper real. Yeah,
I love his Thor run. Like
yeah.
it's like one of these things that just lives in my heart. But boy, that Teen Titans X-Men crossover
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
is not, if that's not one of the greatest comic books ever, I don't know what is.
yeah,
It's got everything.
yeah, yeah.
It's so it's and it was under the radar for a long time.
I know.
Like a lot of people just don't even know that, didn't know, and then
Yeah,
thank goodness.
yeah. And you look at that, like one of those pages that always sticks out in my mind is the giant carved figures and faces that are part of a building like thing, and there's these
Hmm.
beams of light and these little tiny ships and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, the sense of
Scale.
scale.
It's it that's when I recognized the scale. That's
Yeah,
when I was able to kind of go, oh, and then look at Thor and go, oh, and then look at Kirby and go, oh, like at that point, like it was like boom, 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 back in time
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
that's how these bastards do it. So, I mean, we talked about you doing some long runs and you're in the middle of a long project. How do you what do you do to maintain this? Because like, this isn't just like, and I'll say it a million times, like it's a rough business, like on your body. Like, I mean, I was in my 20s doing it and I had like, my hands hurt, my neck hurts. So they give you, you're just and like, you're in your 20s, you shouldn't be in pain. But like, it's like, you have all these, like, you have to do that. But like, you're not in your 20s anymore, Jim.
No.
I
feel it.
So like, yeah, like there's this thing like where you have to do the things you need to do to not end up like on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you do?
Well, probably not as many things as I should,
Okay.
because
sure. Welcome to the club.
The only so many hours in the day. But I listen to music a lot. Both me and my wife listen to music a lot in the house, and that keeps us motivated a lot. I try to stretch out my hand a lot.
Yeah.
I was kind of forced into that, not understanding. I don't know if I got to talk about this the last time, but on my mom's side of the family, there's a genetic inherited tremor.
Oh no, okay.
And when I was working on Seven Soldiers of Victory, the last bookend, there's a section in there that is like this fantasy section that's taking place in the past, and there's these haggard knights up in the frozen wastelands, and they come across some artifacts that have to do with the story. Anyway, to capture the feel of that, I wanted like an old style illustrative quality. So a lot of old illustration would be a lot of cross hatching, and then they would often, if it was in color, they would paint the color right over that.
Okay.
So to capture that etching style is a lot of line after line after line, and then to get those textures. And when I was working on that stuff, I ended up getting a lot of pain in my wrist, really bad. And I ended up with carpal tunnel, had to get it treated and all that stuff. And that's when I'm like, well, why did this happen? And then I started thinking, oh, right, this thing that my mom's side of the family has, obviously, I guess I have it. And I was trying to compensate and didn't realize. I didn't realize that was going on. So that's led to me having to stretch my hand all the time. That tremor thing is another thing that slows me down a bit. So there's certain things that other people can do in a fluid motion I cannot. So I have to plan that out kind of in a weird way.
Right.
And we try to eat really healthy, try to get proper sleep. Sometimes that's
super. It's like, that's the most important thing, is the sleep thing.
Yeah. And, try our best not to be stressed, but I don't think we're overly successful in that area, considering the nature of the country at this point in time, with our age, our concerns over that. One of the biggest thing is probably making sure I don't overwork. So, I always make sure I have a couple days to come down every week. Because I used to, like, early on, I would be like
7 days a week.
Right. And there was a period of time where I was doing that too much, and it was killing me,
Yeah.
And so we just stopped doing that, and just kind of like everyone else had to just work around that. Sorry, that's been really helpful over time. But in terms of like staying motivated, that's probably the toughest thing when doing a long form project, because you're in this story. This is the thing that you're focusing on. Um, Not quite sure when it's going to end. Um, so you kind of like you get into a mindset where it sounds terrible to say, but it's just a matter of fact thing. This is the choice. There is no other choice now.
Sure.
I'm in it. So it's not like you can go, sorry, publisher, I quit.
Right. Right.
When you have contracts and stuff. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, this is the choice. This is what you're doing, whether you feel like you want to do it today or not.
Totally.
Yeah. So there's that going on, but which is terrible to say about doing something that we love to do, but anything that's a challenge means it's work, and that can get to you, especially if I'm dealing with a tremor day. Trying to have patience surrounding that can be difficult. I'm better at it now than I used to be.
I mean, I'm sure I'm guessing it's a neurological thing.
Yes.
But are there things that you can do, like is a certain food in your diet help or hinder that? Does like you said, about getting the proper amount of sleep, meditation, like are there things that you can do that lessen that effect? Because does stress kick it off? Like if it's just getting your body worked up?
Stress can kick it off. As far as other factors, we can't really identify a rhyme or reason to it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem like diet is a thing. If I'm not getting enough water, maybe, for sure.
Okay, sure.
But
drink water. Everybody take a sip of water right now, because we don't drink enough water.
Yeah. You would think being tired would be an obvious thing, but it's not, because there's some days where I didn't get much sleep that night before for whatever reason. I had a bad night, and I don't experience the tremor as badly. Okay. And other times where I have plenty of rest, and I do experience the tremor more profoundly. So it's like this up and down thing, and so I probably because it's neurological. It's just if I get overheated, it definitely can be a trigger.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is a trick, because like when I'm drawing, my whole body heats up when I'm drawing, like significantly. Yeah.
I mean, I find that after, I usually try to write for about 4 hours every morning, and I'm just tapped. Like I'm done at that 4 hours, but I am just like, I'm like, I know my whole body's hot. Like my body's warm, because I think just everything is activated. Yeah. Because I am grasping and grabbing everything I can to channel it all into, what I'm trying to get on the page. And and I don't, and I think that was the same with drawing comic books. It's harder to remember. I mean, I think I made it to about 30 years old, 31 years old by the time I said, but like, I think the physiological things I remember, aside from whatever was uncomfortable. Yeah. I do remember when the work worked well, it felt like I was on that roller coaster ride right before it dipped, and those butterflies, that's when I knew it was working. Like there was some sort of like everything is kind of working, and my body is almost terrified about this. Yeah.
I have the opposite of that. When I start feeling like that when I know it's not working. And that starts to build the anxiety and the stress.
Right.
When I feel like it is working, I feel more mellow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. It's weird.
I'm wondering, like, in the terms of like, I just go like, well, how would I try to maintain motivation, on long-term stuff? Like writing a novel is a long-term sort of effort. Like you're in it for, if you're doing it all the time, you're in it at the most for 2 years, but still 2 years is a long time to do anything. And, if you're writing your first novel, it could take a decade, and that's okay. That's normal for most people. But I think I have a group of what I call my alpha readers who I show stuff to from time to time. Like, I know certain people are really good at this and some people are good at this. So if I'm questioning something,
Yeah.
I'll give them a chunk and they can read it just to get what their response to it is,
Uh-huh.
or if I have a prompt to say like, hey, is this coming through, like, and then they'll give me their feedback, but that usually motivates me to keep on track, even if it's the nope, this isn't working. At least I have something to kind of like index off of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The main person I rely on for that sort of thing is my wife. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she sometimes will see things that I'm not seeing on the page. Uh, Unfortunately, sometimes that'll happen when the thing's drawn. Um,
Sure.
and I'm like, oh well, shit, I can't really fix that. you know. Uh,
A word balloon often fixes an art
Sometimes,
problem.
right?
Yes.
Uh, uh, so that she's always got a really good eye for that kind of stuff. And as far as the writing, with having co-authors,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
helpful.
that helps a lot in terms of like, do you see it or do you not see it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Eisner, Will used to it was his mailman. He
Oh,
considered his mailman like to be like the average everyman. And like my
interesting.
thought is like, I'm like, who, as progressive as you were, Will, showing this to that guy, by the time you stopped showing your artwork to him, however many years into that, like that guy was probably like one of the best comic book, like readers in the world, because he could, because he would look at something and then I'm sure Will would ask him questions and he'd be like, well, yeah, no, or I don't, and then, that was so there's someone whose grandfather got to read The Spirit,
Yeah.
sort of like in these odd sort of circumstances.
And it's kind of a weird thing because like sometimes I'll do things too where like the page I'm working on now, where I just do it regardless of what the feedback
Mm-hmm.
could be, so I don't even show anyone. Um, because I have this weird notion in my head and I'm determined to make it work. So, uh, so the written script for the page I'm working on is vastly different than what is on the page.
Oh,
All the
wow. Okay.
story details are the same, but the way I've
Mm-hmm.
approached it is different. And as an example, in Fourth Rome, their culture has a lot of death imagery.
Okay.
Um, because their culture, they also use the omega symbol. They feel like they are the end all be all,
Hmm.
that there's nothing beyond them other than death. And so I've incorporated a lot of sometimes overt skeleton imagery, sometimes less of overt, and have relied on that whole Kirby aspect of like, oh, what does a completely stylized skeleton look like as a flat structure
Mm-hmm.
aspect, or skulls and things like that. So anyway, with this issue, most of it taking place outside of Fourth Rome, and it's in this jungle. At the end of the story, we come back to Fourth Rome, and I had originally written it to where like, well, I'm going to have some Kirby shapes in the panels, but like the panel shapes themselves, and I'll use black because it's the rival of the villain, so darken it up. And then I thought about, because he's facing the queen and threatening the queen of Fourth Rome, or Empress rather. And so I thought about like, okay, the image where he's sort of like a holographic image, and she's on this little tiny balcony, and he's talking to
Mm-hmm.
her. Then there was a scene where I'm like, oh well, actually I should create another panel that connects to the balcony and literally draw it together, right? And I'm like, oh, that'd be
Okay.
great to use some Kirby shapes, geometric shapes to connect those two things. But then I'm like, but you know what? This guy also represents the threat of death. right?
Hmm.
And so I'm like, well, how do I bring that back full circle into Fourth Rome? And so I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to make all the panels on the right side of the spread, including the connecting panel to the balcony. It's all going to be a giant skull.
Okay. Yeah.
so, so when I start to get in that kind of mindset, there's no point in me showing anyone at that point, because I'm
Sure.
kind of like, I'm going to see if this works or not work, right?
Yeah.
Um, and hopefully I can make it work. The result is pretty interesting, and so it's then it becomes like a symbolic thing, and then I'm living in my head about like creating subliminal or overt symbology that represents something.
Mm-hmm.
So when I start to get in those kind of headspaces, it's like I don't even think to really show somebody that, because it's like I'm not going to
Yeah.
know if it's working for me until I'm done. So,
You can't take a creative risk by committee.
right.
You kind of just sometimes you have to take a leap and hope that your accrued skill set and your instinct come together at the right space and time to
Yeah.
make whatever it is you're trying to do
Yeah.
cogent.
And so far, I think it's successful. It's like one of those weird things when you look at it panel by panel, you're like, oh, those are interesting shapes. But then when you step back from it, you're like, I don't know how many people will see that's a skull, which is
Right,
good,
right,
right?
right.
And so some people maybe when they were like, oh, fuck, that's just giant, the whole thing's a skull. It's this giant mechanical skull head with that.
That's exciting.
All the portions of its face are the panels.
Yeah.
Um, is it maybe over the top? Maybe,
Who knows? Who
but
knows?
yeah, yeah.
I think it's cool. Yeah. So what's the timeline for you with ECHOLANDS? What does the big clock say?
In terms of what?
Well, I mean, like you have what usually you have two more chapters after you wrap this part up, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And then is that, or do you have another arc you want to
Oh yeah,
employ?
yeah. It's yeah. This thing. That's the other thing that's interesting about writing this, because like when we wrote the outline, we originally wrote it as 12 issues, but then when we wrote issue 2, there were certain things that we decided on the fly to okay, so Hope and Core and Rabbit, the kid,
Mm-hmm.
they were going to be the only survivors at the end of issue 1. But then when we went in to write issue 2, we were kind of like, you know, that's too convenient. It's I started feeling like that's too convenient. Some of these other characters that are part of their little band of thieves that are in the peripheral backgrounds, no, some of them should survive too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that immediately blows the story way more open, and you have
Right.
to start giving all those people screen time. But it ended up being better and stronger for it. Also allowed us to dabble more with the interplay of styles of characters standing next to each other, uh, which enhanced the concept even more. But as we go into it, so since Rabbit is alive and the vampire character survived, we have to get more into who she is, what she's about. When we go to how is that, what is her story? Why did she leave Horror Hill in the first place? Uh, all that kind of stuff, and so it keeps expanding out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a much grander, more satisfying series because of it. And then the format causing us to alter the way we write as well. Some sequences that we envisioned originally, because we went from 12 issues and we're like, oh, maybe it's going to have to be 15. But as we start writing different scenes, we're like, yeah, no, this isn't going to fit in 2 pages. This is going to have to be 4 pages or whatever. There's stuff where we've had to expand because just the logistics of the page is insisting on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that has made it longer in some contexts as well. But the funny part about that is there's a sequence in this arc that's coming up that we were able to do in 4 pages that we originally thought we would devote a whole issue to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What we ended up doing is, I think, smarter. It's less typical.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy about that.
Wait, so let me cut in for a second. How did that happen? Like, had you guys like plotted it out and had this sort of script idea, or maybe just you guys work off a pretty intense plot? And did you start laying it out and then go, wait a minute, I think I can compress it here? Or did you discover that in conversation?
Yeah, we had a conversation about it and actually wrote the script to gear to the new idea.
Okay.
Um, and that was just, I'm glad we did that as well. It makes for a more interesting sequence. And even though the story keeps kind of like requiring more space, so there's parts where we're thinking like, well, how do we get to certain circumstances that put us where we want to be in the story? And then also, now that we're this far into it and understanding the logistics more, there's sequences that I know that are coming up and I'm like, yeah, no, there's no way that's going to be done in half an arc. There's no way that whole bit is going to be an entire arc. There's no way around it. But also reconfiguring some things from our outline, moving some things up. So like this issue is the arrival of the villain, who's been sort of in the background for a few issues, immediately kicks things into gear in a different way than where people thought we were going.
Sure.
Where
Right.
the characters thought they were going. It's like, they're like, oh shit, this idea of going around the Echolands and building an army to fight this guy, he just took that decision away from us. We're having to fight him now. Right?
You gotta love bad guys, man. They drive the action.
Right. And the good result of that is we get to show him be as powerful as we've alluded to. The devastation he causes to Fourth Rome is significant. And that ups the ante, which builds better for where we're going to go in the following arc. So I kind of did a new rough outline arc by arc when I wrote the first draft of this issue. Hayden and I haven't had a chance to talk about that pacing yet, but I think he'll probably agree with me. So I think one of the big reveals of what the Echolands mystery will happen at the end of arc 3. And originally we were picturing that being much earlier in the series. But just the logistics of the story, I think it would feel very forced and crammed and not feel like it's unfolding naturally.
You're putting air around the notes.
Yeah, and so giving ourselves I don't even want to use the term luxury. I feel like it's more like allowing ourselves to recognize the necessity of having to adhere to the expansion of the logistics, because otherwise I think a lot of it would feel very trite and lose emotional power. So I don't know. It might be if things go the way I think they will for the end of arc 3, I think it might require 2 more after that.
Okay.
But I'll talk to Hayden about that, because what we're building towards, as epic as this thing feels, it keeps being more and more epic.
The rays are going apart from each other rather than coming.
Yeah.
So there'll be a point when everything starts focusing back in.
And the mystery, when we get to that point and the big reveals happen and the readers are like, what the hell?
Well, that's the dream, right?
Right. And so everything from that point forward, having a for that to feel appropriately epic, I kind of feel like the buildup needs to feel like it warrants that, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, totally.
so, yeah, the big stuff that happens and the things that the characters go through at that because of the reveal, it turns everything on its head. And
Mm-hmm.
for that to have a resolution and that resolution to have the emotional power will need pages.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah, yeah,
because listen, you're not drawing pictures. You're drawing a story of characters. And
yeah,
your job as the illustrator and the writer, um, it's to connect those characters to the readers in a fashion that they are willing to get in the car and go for a drive for however long this drive goes, as long as the scenery is interesting. Like
yeah.
they're like,
It's,
and that's because that's your job. It's
yeah,
not just to draw this bombastic thing that doesn't, people go like, okay, like I'm, using music metaphor. Sometimes some music is too much
right,
and you just like, I can't listen to a lot of this. I can listen to some of this.
right.
And that's, it's your job to sort of go, well, how much do I give them
Yeah,
and parse it out? Like, I mean, the reason George R. Martin's books have become so popular is that he is, you know, spreading
yeah.
this whole story out and far and wide because the characters are interesting, the stories are
It's
interesting, and
demanding it. Yeah,
yeah, they're I mean, they are demanding their page time,
yeah.
and that's super important. And the luxury of a novel is that the pages are relatively inexpensive to produce.
Right.
Um, Comics a little bit more expensive to
Yeah,
produce per page. Film incredibly expensive to produce per minute. So
yeah,
you're sort of in a sweet spot where you could kind of like, since you're the one who's sort of picking up a lot of the weight, it's your choice. Like,
yeah,
how heavy do you want to go? You want to lift?
yeah. And it's also one of those things where even though the original outline, the body of the story is still the story. We haven't changed that. So we know where we're going. It's just that the road is more windy than we originally anticipated, right?
Yeah,
But what does a windy road give you? More enjoyment, more to take in, you know?
yeah, yeah. You get the long and winding road. I mean,
Yeah,
it's gorgeous, and I think it's. I don't know. I mean, you talked about evergreen, and I think I don't. I mean, listen, I don't have the answer for it, but what I feel an evergreen thing is that it is authentic to the people making it.
yeah,
So that authenticity transmits itself through whatever the medium is. Like Jeff Buckley's Grace
hmm
is a truly authentic album.
yeah,
Will live on forever.
yeah,
This works of one brilliant young man, and it's transcendent. But he put everything of himself into that album.
yeah,
This is you putting everything into this entirety.
yeah,
That's the only way that you're going to achieve, because you can do pyrotechnics and wow and whatever.
yeah,
But I think the bottom line is much of that ends up being novelty.
yeah,
We are wired to respond to it, but we also grow weary of it.
yeah,
I think that's where, so when we make choices and decisions when it comes to the things that we engage with as creators, when we're able to tap in and take those creative risks and make the thing that really is what we feel is the right thing and says the right message that we want to convey, um, that's no guarantee, but I think that's what the common denominator is.
yeah. And I think the reason why I'm seeing the issue count the way I am is because what happens after so the end of each arc we want to have a cliffhanger. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of arc 3, something happens in the reader is left with like, what the hell is this? But then when we come back into the next arc, the opening chapter of that deals with what that is, what it means to the characters, while having a big, not only is it a coinciding reveal of the secrets of their world, but it's a reveal of Hope herself, her past, what makes her tick.
Right.
So that's an issue unto itself. And then when they come out of that, there's a whole issue of where we learn so much about the ECHOLANDS in the following issue that would leave us, if we were trying to end it on arc 4, then I think that would only leave us 4 issues for the big giant push.
Sure. Right.
And I just think it could be rushed if it's,
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, we have to really talk it out. There might be tricks that we haven't considered to find ways to expedite things without it feeling rushed or cheap or shortchanged.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I feel like I'm going on a limb here, but I would suspect that you really appreciate the films of Paul Thomas Anderson and like films like Magnolia, where there are so many moving pieces that when they come together, there's this grace and efficiency at the end where you go,
right.
Bless you, man. Bless you. I'm hearing all the gears all kind of like you're sitting there and filing them together and fitting them. And that's like what this set feels like, that you're really trying to craft this very articulate piece.
Yeah.
Or you bit off more than you can chew.
Yes. All right. I feel like that often.
You could draw simpler. I mean, like Darwin Cook really nailed it, didn't he?
Yes. I feel like that often. Like there's times where I'm complaining about something I'm working on and my wife will come in, she goes, well, blame the writer.
Yeah, sure. Right. Totally.
She's
totally.
Like, you're the one who decided to do that.
You signed up.
It's pretty funny conversation because she's dead on correct.
Of course.
I've created my own torture.
we are the architects of our own suffering in so many ways. Yes. It's just I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I don't want to say it's just ambition. I think there's a whole lot of like childhood reckoning that forces us into these kind of crazy pretzels. Yeah.
Like the whole like we were saying a little bit ago about trying to turn all the panels into a giant skull. Like that's a great example because it's like I was bitching at myself as I was plotting out the skull, like and then thinking like, oh, was this a mistake? How much more time is it taking me to do this because I've made this decision?
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, if it works, then you're like, cool.
Right. And you're in the fortunate / unfortunate position of you get to make those choices.
Yeah.
And that's a tough chair to sit in sometimes.
Yeah.
So are you reading anything good?
I'm in the probably I think I'm 3/4 of the way into Brendan Slocum's Dark Maestro novel.
Okay.
Actually, I got a chance to do an interview with him. He's a big comics fan.
Oh, right. I saw you post that. Right.
Super nice. And I'm really enjoying his book a lot, actually.
That's great.
His characterizations in this book are just super out of sight. They feel like people really feel.
Oh, that's great.
Like real people, realized characters. So I'm enjoying that a lot. And then his pacing, this is by no means a criticism. It's an easy novel to take in. Because the way his writing style is super digestible without being coming across as lazy
Yeah.
or unrefined. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very well thought out. Well,
Yeah, that's cool.
very well crafted. I'm enjoying it a lot. So it makes me want to pick up his other novels, actually. So
That's great. I'm just super excited that you're doing this thing, and now it sounds like you're sort of expanding the brand of your writing further and getting more stories out there. And that's just
it's not been easy. I'll tell you what.
no,
Like
no,
it's amazing how tricky it is to navigate generating multiple projects.
right.
Um, but some of them we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel on, and that's a nice feeling. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's great, man. It's great, and I think I've said it a couple of times, and it's a pretty exciting thing to see the people who we came into the business with still sort of commanding so much attention with what they're doing,
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and without it being and no offense to this, but without it being Batman or Wolverine, like they're
yes,
doing their own thing, and everyone is like, I love this thing.
yes, yes. My hopes are for that to keep growing. I,
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, I feel like the growth of that has been too slow. Um,
It's comics,
but part of that is because the no slight against Marvel or DC, but the stranglehold they have on the dollar being spent
right?
is is massive, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, but my hopes is for the readership to keep growing into what the rest of the market has to offer.
Totally.
Um, and it's happening, but I just feel like I know I want it to be more rapid. You know,
Well,
I
I,
just
I think if this approach was something that was tried in the 80s with a sort of the same level of grace that it happens now,
yeah
it may have gotten its hooks in deeper earlier because there weren't as many things pulling for everyone's eye. There
yeah
weren't cell phones. There weren't these immersive video games. There weren't
yes
streaming services. There are more movies produced every year than the
yeah
previous year. So we are the eye, and I'm trying to get people to read books.
yeah
Uh, there's not even a picture to get you excited. I mean, it's I gotta hope that they can come up with a picture in their head. I mean, that's
yeah
like, so it's really tough. But I don't know. I haven't thought about it long enough to really have like a codified sort of theory on it as to why this is happening at this time.
yeah
I think it could be we are the beneficiaries of the Rolling Stones,
mm,
who, when we were kids, we were like, man, they're old. When are they going to stop? They never stopped,
right
you
and
know?
their latest album's brilliant.
Right. And Bowie went to the day he died.
Yeah
I think for us, there's a creative model out there. Maybe it wasn't in comic books,
yeah
but it's like, well, shit. Like, why do we have to say like we're done? Why can't we be relevant and interesting beyond our
right
20s? We don't have to all be Kurt Cobain.
right right yeah exactly exactly yeah, and that's one of the things I'm hoping to accomplish with something like Echolands, and the fact that it's exploring visually such a diverse resource and influence from comics and other art
Mm-hmm.
forms that, well, yes, you know, doing this Kirby section is harkening back to old comics, or the Gil Kane thing harkens back to old comics or whatever. But my hopes are that in the sense of it being this concoction of things, that it's timeless. It's all is now kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like while there's so many things that are distracting us with the streaming and all that, uh, You could stream all types of music all at once now. There's a lot of distractions, but even with that, it does give a sense of all is now. You
It
know,
is all now.
yeah, which can be a good thing in the long run.
I think maybe it was something I heard from Mark Maron many, many years ago, but like, it's like you haven't missed anything. Even
Yeah,
though you weren't there when it came out, it's all there right now. You didn't miss anything.
yeah,
We can love it all, and it's all there, and it's right now.
yeah, yep.
I love that. Jim, thank you for coming back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Super chuffed to talk with you because I think we could go on, and I
yes,
honestly
we'll do another one.
At the risk of embarrassing him, Jim is such a complex and passionate creator, and it's not an exaggeration to say I could talk with him for hours at a clip. He's just one of my favorite people. I'm so happy he agreed to come back on the podcast after all these years. If you're a fan of comics from the last 60 years, ECHOLANDS may be just your cup of tea. Go check it out. My thanks to Jim and the rest of the season 18 guests for sharing themselves with me and the listeners. And a special thanks to the friends who encouraged me to get back on the mic and offered insightful feedback that inspired me to produce what I feel is the best season of the podcast to date. Finally, to those who join me each episode, I can't thank you enough. I hope you get a good fraction of the inspiration I do from these conversations, and all your messages, emails, and likes mean a lot. If you have thoughts on the season, the podcast, potential guests, or subjects, please shoot them my way. I'm reachable with an @ symbol before or a .com following J. Alex Morrissey everywhere. Also, I may distribute a feedback questionnaire this winter, so let me know if you'd like to participate. Next year, get ready for season 19. I'm in desperate need for a break, but I'm excited to get started. And for you well-connected lot, don't be surprised if I hit you up for an introduction to the next amazing lineup. You've been warned. And remember, stay sane, nothing's forever. Creating something undeniable is a truly human experience. So take a chance. Till next year, thanks for listening.